how wireless technology is used. Right, so these are we're going to talk about wireless today. Right, so hopefully we're going to cover 2 chapters maybe today. So we left with only the last chapter on how to be ethical. Okay, wireless. Okay, wireless communication is everywhere. We see it everywhere, right? We use it almost every day. Okay, at least for the 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and there are also other technology that you might not heard of. Right, there are also other like WiMAX, okay, YD, satellite, cellular, all these things. Right, so that's what we're going to touch on shortly. So there are wireless devices, depending on what technology you use, right? They have different coverage. Like for example, Bluetooth, their distance of coverage might not be as wide as Wi-Fi or even 4G, etc. Right? So there's also the RFID tag. Okay, these are like the library book. If you ever go to the library, in my wing, it's not in the right place. Okay, like always imagine myself in heaven already. That's such a nice place to go. RFID tags, right? So these are small chipset that is actually embedded, okay, on some stickers. You notice that the library books, if you open up, okay, you can see the RFID chip over there. It's not like the barcode reader, right? It's not like a barcode printout. So so this RFID tag has a lot of advantages also, right? So you can basically put all the book, okay, together, and then all the 10 book or 9 book, and can return one shot, okay, without having to scan one by one. So that's the best advantage against RFID, barcode. Yeah, NFC is just another technology, also using some kind of near frequency kind of chips, right? So usually it's used for the handphone, handphone for payment. So RFID tag is, I think, will be actually much cheaper, Usually these are used for products, on the products itself. MSCs are near field. It's always like almost like contactless card. Contactless card usually used on handphone. Right, home wireless device, wide area network. Okay, so so you can see that you can connect up to your home appliances. Okay, nowadays almost every household got Wi-Fi, right? Almost everyone got Wi-Fi. So just now you've seen, I was playing with my home Wi-Fi system, right? So so you can see there was a couple of devices already connected to my home TV, home Wi-Fi, right? So you can see mine is a Singtel mesh Wi-Fi router, right? So I think just now you have seen me playing around with this Singtel Wi-Fi. So you notice, right? I think you guys can also go home and try. Go look behind this WiMAX, right? So you can see mine is from Singtel. Just now I forgot. But anyway, you can go take a look at your Wi-Fi router if you have never tried it. This is time for you to explore. Some students say don't know. Then your home network is the one that you can explore. Go behind, you'll see that there is this network, right? The IP address. Typically for our home this is the local internal intranet network, right? This is time for you to play it and learn. See, this is a 192.168. Okay, .1.254, right? Usually we use this as the router, right? The 255, you use it as a broadcast, right? So typically there's been set it for you, and then the rest are all, right? And you can see that this might be my public IP address, right? Which is the one that connected out. So anyone want to see, want to talk to me, they actually have to go to this. This is the public IP address. We didn't use version 6, right? So they basically use this public address given to one, maybe each household, and then from there you have a branch off, right? So you can see the network topology. You can see the network topology. So there are a few devices and 3 more that's being connected. This is my WiMAX. You can see that my Wi-Fi looks like this. Yours, I'm not too sure looks like what. Mine is like this. Okay, so you can also look at some advanced standing. So you can see currently there are actually what, 5. If you look at my this, right, I got at least 6 devices connected. One device, one computer, one Galaxy, one smart TV. I deliberately go and open a smart TV, and you can see that this smart TV I configure is using a Wi-Fi 5 gigahertz. Right? If you have, sometimes you can actually configure to 2.4. Right? This is 2.4, right? And this is another iPhone, right? I got a lot of things. Galaxy, even just in the morning already. Then also got some tablet, Galaxy tablet. You see, this is a handful mobile devices. Even within my own home, I already have IP address. See, these are my internal IP address, right? Just now you see, this is the Wi-Fi router's address. And usually we use the 254. We don't use the 255. 255 is more for broadcast message to all the thing here, right? So then you have just now you saw that 116 something, that's the public IP address. So we have an internal IP address. This is my internal, because it's all set up using a DHCP. That's why it automatically assigned, right? So you can see that there are some other different one and some, right? So you can see the internal usually is 192, but you can also change, right? You can also change on your own. So you use your fixed IP, but just that you need to configure it properly. Right? So you can go and explore, just look at your Wi-Fi router behind. There's also the admin and password. Use that admin and password if they prompt you. So it's all the things is behind your router. Go try that, right? Just simply point, right? Like if you don't know, just go and type HTTP 2.//192 168.1. Typically should be this. So you just click on it and then you can come to this, right? And you should see your SSID. Mine is like lemon poppy seed. Don't ask me. This is my kids going to set up one, right? So you have for Wi-Fi, typically you have a 2.4 and 5G gigahertz, right? So this is my home SSID, just like student and staff network. So if you ever come near my house, then you can use this for free, provided you can crack the network key or whatever, right? So so you can see and go explore yourself. There's also firewalls. Okay, you can see also I can add in MAC address. That is another way to filter off and control by kicking off instead of just IP. The more precise, because IP address people can fake, but MAC address is something cannot fake. So it's like telling people who can enter is Johnny or Peter. So you give the MAC address, you can add in the MAC address, the physical MAC address, so you can filter off, right? And usually Wi-Fi got two channel. 1.1, one is a 2.4 gig and one is a 5 gigahertz. Right, so if you find that one is cluttered, very cluttered, very slow, that's why you see my TV. I purposely choose a 5G so that when I watch my smart TV, I usually watch the YouTube. So all my kids cannot interfere with mine. So when you have a family of 5, then when all of them go Zoom, then you there's a lot of bandwidth that's being eaten up by them. So I can I purposely set my smart TV for myself so that I can watch the YouTube smoothly, right? So you can filter them by MAC address. So even with a valid IP address, if the MAC address is not being locked down, they will not be able to surf the internet as well, right? So so you can go try it out, and later on we'll talk about firewalls, right? So you can also set firewall rules, like parent control, so I can set certain IP. If I know my son's IP address or on the handphone, I can lock him and so that he cannot use my Wi-Fi. So he has to use the 5G, right? So you can even schedule rules like at night after 1 a.m. No more internet serving or whatever. So you can, this is the rules that you can set. Go try it. You can go try the, oh, now got to enter password again. Wait. This is where you have to go and find your your password lah, right? Behind, it's just all behind your router. Go look at your router, go explore. Okay, next time maybe I should use that as a lab. Huh? Now come to think of it, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Ask you guys to follow. Maybe I still got one more lab, or still got one last lab. I think if we got nothing to do, then maybe ask you all to go and explore and then screenshot what you all have. And do some setting. Oh, I think the password is out already. I could go and find my password. So you can do administrative. Oh, okay. Now I go and look at my password again. So anyway, go explore, right? So go and explore file rules or troubleshooting, whatever. Go try it and just don't crash your system, huh? If you ever crash, then just call the Singtel help desk, or just do a reset, right? So these are all the things, okay, that we have gone through. What's that? So when do we use the network IP address? Network. You mean the network and the host, is it? We have to use IP address all the time, but if you're talking about the network ID and the host ID, you usually use it for defining, okay, if you have a big organizations, okay, when you want to separate them by different department, different network, right? So that is, yes, you do it during subnetting, right? But it's like transparent. Basically, the IP address consists of the network ID and the host ID. Just think of the IP address contain your block number and the unit number, something, or maybe, yeah. So it's like your full address, which is the IP address. It contains the block and the unit number, right? So when people come to that block 123, then which unit they must find, right? So the same thing. So the IP address contains. So you define your block. Is it what 200 unit or 300 unit? Right? So you define how many host ID. So it's the same. Your company, you need how many machine? You need 100 per machine. You need 200 machine. Then account department, you need how many machine? 2, 3, 4. Then you size it accordingly. If you use up too many network ID, it will be at a compromise of your host ID. You notice that, right? The length, right? So if you have more host ID, right, more machine, then it will be at a compromise of the number of network ID that you can create, number of departments. So what you can do is you have to extend further, right? So that is a mix, okay? So it's a mix. But generally at home, you just set anything at will, right? So you look at the subnet masking, right? So Bluetooth is yeah. So this Bluetooth is usually for headset, for small near range, okay? For when you want to set up a personal area network. I hope you still remember a PAN, right? Personal area. You have local area network, you have the wide area network. Bluetooth, okay, RFID are more like or near what? NFC is more for the near coverage. Usually their range is not very far and they do not require a range to be too far, right? So it's about 10 meters, right? 10 meters, and some of course can go up to as far as 50 meters, depending on the strength of the Bluetooth, right? So the Bluetooth is the one that based on batteries. Now, usually Bluetooth devices are based on chargeable batteries, so they do not need to have a wide, a very powerful radio frequency or antenna, right? Because they run on portable battery, just like your earpiece, right? Your earpiece, your Bluetooth earpiece, run on chargeable battery, so they cannot afford to have high power, as well as the Bluetooth mouse. And some of you have like me, also got the Bluetooth keyboard, right? The Bluetooth keyboard, the wireless Bluetooth keyboards. Even TV also have, right? So sometimes you, like me, surf the YouTube. I have a Bluetooth keyboard, right? Because use the TV soft key are very cumbersome. How many students here? 84 students here. Saturday morning, all sleeping. Right, sorry about that. And right, so you have got this link manager. So this link manager is actually embed part of the Bluetooth module. It's basically software, one of the software component inside the Bluetooth architecture. Right, so they basically create the link between the two devices. Right, if you have a Bluetooth, you notice that every time you have to pair, right, you have to do the pairing. Right, if you don't do the pairing, then next time they don't know who to pair with. Right, just like your laptop, you need to pair with a mouse. Right? Otherwise, another person with a Bluetooth mouse might interfere with your laptop, or worse still, when somebody got another Bluetooth headset, they might be eavesdropping at what you're listening to, and also when you're talking, right? When you're talking, they can also listen to what you're talking, right? So that's why it need to be paired. It need to be marriage, right? So that there's a bonding, and once there's a bonding being set up, next time the laptop will remember this is the link manager, right? They will remember who they are married to, right? Just like when next time when you get married, you must know who you get married to. Not that you are outside, kept looking at other girls. No, right? So this is a Bluetooth headpiece, and this is yesterday I mentioned before. This is where, depending on what you want to set up, right? You can fix your IP address. Like usually for our home, we don't fix our IP address, right? We let it be. So this is the subnet masking, right? So this is where you set up your network ID, right? It's up to you to set. But a lot of time we just treat it as this, right? Usually for home or small, if you need many, right? If you need a lot of host ID that you need to set up in the network, in a single network, then you give more bit, okay, so that you got more bits, right? So you got a range of what, 255, 255, 255 bits to play with for the host ID. If you have a short, usually people don't have a lot of network department. I think 255 is really big enough already, right? It's really big enough, right? So this is the subnet, this is the network range, right? So it's a very small network ID, but I have a lot me. So typically this might be one of the setup for, let's say, maybe the universities, right? Because they got a lot of computers, they got a lot of workstations, right? So you can choose, if you choose the obtain IP address automatically, then you might need to set up like the DHCP server, right? DHCP server, so that they can identify, they can give you an IP address, right? Otherwise, you fix your own IP address, right? You can fix your own IP address, okay? Because some people, they like the number maybe 88, they wouldn't choose. Or you give your director, like the director, give you 88, so they're very happy. So so this is a DNS address. Okay, so if you have any DNS server, right, you can put it. So you can say, where's the DNS server? The one is the one that translate the address, the string of address to IP address, right? So these are another wireless technologies. They're using the various technologies. So they run up to at the speed of 7 gigahertz, 10 gigahertz. These are usually for high speed, greater distance, but maybe a slower transmission rate, right? So Piconet is usually used by the Bluetooth, right? If you study Bluetooth devices, you will know that one Piconet, okay, every devices can form their own bubble. It's just like your own bubble. Now like got travel bubble, right? Travel bubble, only a few countries can they travel within that bubbles, right? Same for Bluetooth, right? They can set up your own Piconet, your own bubbles, right? Usually one Bluetooth devices can connect up to maybe seven to eight other devices, just like your laptop, right? Your laptop, how many devices can it connect to? Maybe up to 6 or 7, okay, 7 devices. So it can connect to my, let's say my keyboard, my Bluetooth keyboard. One laptop can pair up with one keyboard, one mouse, and one earpiece, okay? And I don't know what else you want to connect to. Maybe a Bluetooth printer, right? Bluetooth printer. So you can, and also connect to your handphone, smartphone, right? So I think there's a limit until 7 to 8 devices. Like it's almost like a pod, more like a pod. So if you want to form, you can also form another Piconet, like the printer. The printer might form another Piconet with another laptop, right, or another handphone. So these are all taken care internally by the security, Bluetooth security. One of them will be the I put there already, up to 7 devices, right? Usually, right? So there's a limit to that. Okay, but if you want to extend, then you might want to form different Piconet, right? You might need to have more printers, etc., right? So this is the Piconet satellite. Okay, so satellite. So satellite are those running on space. You've seen it. The Starlink. I think I showed you the video, right, on Elon Musk. So he has a very ambitious having a satellite. Okay, Starlink. So have more satellite. We don't have enough. So he has already planned thousands of them, and very soon he's going to get it work, and he's already the richest man on earth already. So so he's going to cover. So with the Starlink, okay, you can be assured that there's no blind spot anymore, right? So even when you are on cruise nowadays, cannot travel any country, right? Safer to be on the cruise maybe, right? So so that will be able to cover those a lot of wide areas. Okay, area will have internet access. That will be great. So you can also use the satellite as a repeating signals, okay, to be able to repeat. So there's this what we call the uplink. Okay, so when somebody travel the uplink and then transmit to the downlink, right? So because the earth is round, okay, because the earth is round, it's curved, so the satellite might not be able to beam over. So they need the satellite here to be a repeater, right? In this case, it's like a repeater, right? The satellite is repeating a signal because the satellite, like I say, is round. Of course, there are some people think that the earth is flat. So you go and check the YouTube. I always see that. There are some people think that the earth is flat. So until now. So but the earth is round, right? Because it's curved. If you have a satellite, you want to transmit to another location over at the other curve, at the end of the curve, you can't use a ground-based satellite. You ground-based satellite just beam out and it cannot reach. So they need a satellite as a repeater to repeat, right? So this is the uplink, means it's traveling up and then it travels down again. And sometimes you notice that the uplink is actually transmitting at a faster speed, and then downlink seems to be at another frequency hertz, right? So you can travel down, so that this become a repeater, just repeating. Right. So for cellular network, of course, they have the cell tower, right? The cell network. So and of course, last time we used to call this cell phone, right? Because they are all cellular, right? So of course, now we are on the 4th generation, and can't wait for the 5th generation to come online, right? So that we can turn our house into a smart home, and you got a lot more gadgets that you can connect. Last time it used to be 3G, so I'm not too sure you guys still remember the 2.5G or GPRS kind of signaling, right? So of course, with the 4G, now you're getting faster and faster, right? What's the role, or why can't the satellite connect directly to several devices? The satellite can, like I say, okay? That's why they have the Starlink coming out, right? But again, satellite, you need a few satellite, isn't it? Because it's like I say, the Earth is curved, right? So if you look at the GPS, how you use GPS, right? Some of you, when you travel, you use GPS. GPS currently we have they need 24 satellites, okay, that circle around Earth, but in order to provide a complete coverage, you can't just depend on one satellite, okay? So you might need a few satellites, right? So satellite can connect to several devices. They can, okay? Not that they can only connect to one, but then it's just like your Wi-Fi router at home, right? if you have too many people, or like some of you are stay in bungalow, got basement and got 4 level up, right? You'll find that one Wi-Fi alone at the ground level might not be sufficient, right? You might need a repeater, or you might sound very rich one, they subscribe another Wi-Fi, right? So you got even and then you put the Wi-Fi at the 2nd floor or the 3rd floor, right? Or even in our mentioned before, even in the school computer lab, okay, you have Wi-Fi access, but the school don't just in one lab is you don't find only one access point, right? Because one access point might not be able to handle so many students, right? And you also need redundancy. What happens if one satellite is spot, you have at least got another one. And also you need to provide overlapping, right? The Wi-Fi coverage, you also need to provide overlap so that they when one move from one place to another, they still got complete coverage, right? So that's where we need, okay? And the role of the role of the I'm just reading some of the student question. What's the role of the Earth station? The role of the Earth station is important, right? You got to get something transmitted up, like this one, right? That's where it transmit up and transmit down to the other side, because the Earth station couldn't reach the other side of the country, right? And of course, the Earth station is the one that provide maybe the hard wire, okay, that connected to the rest of the ISP. So the Earth station is basically they have the role of transmitting to another place. They can go via the satellite, or they can go if they have the line of sight. If they have the line of sight, they might be they might not need to go through the satellite. They'll just go from one radar station to another radar station. Okay. So the uplink, it depends on how you want to set it up, right? So sometimes it's a bit more difficult to transmit up. Coming down is easier, right? And also sometimes due to secrecy, they might change different channels. Right, so it depends on technologies also, right? There are different satellite with different speed, different bandwidth, etc. So there's big satellite this, there are big. So for cell station, for base stations, at least, okay, if you go to those who go to, if you see Singtel, we have some base stations, right, in Singapore also, right? Earth satellite, okay, that is to communicate with the external world, the overseas, right? So that you can receive. So other than traveling by optical fiber, ocean fiber optic cables, right? Another alternative is to set up your own Earth stations, right? So and of course from the Earth station, then you will populate to all these little cell station, right? If you look at some of the high-rise flat or HDB, or sometimes if you notice under the basement, they also got this, right? They got some little, I think, smaller one at the basement, because this only cover on top. What happens if you go basement? It might not be able to reach it, especially if it's a thick ground base, right? Concrete floor. So they might need another repeater, which is a base shell station, cell tower. This is a cell tower, right? So they can use it to broadcast, even for especially like cars, right? Imagine you have you surf, okay, you surf internet on the train, right? The train travel very fast, right? So they need to have all these cell stations to have overlap coverage, right? So that's why if you when usually the telco, when they want to test out their coverage, they always ask people to go around the house. The best one, of course, give free trial. That's why you can see at one time TPG give free trial. Why do they have that free trial? Because instead of getting their people moving around and where they might not be able to cover the whole Singapore extensively, they open up and let the public move around and test out how good is their coverage, right? So you might have a few shell tower, right, at different distances, right? Because this only cover one part, okay, one sector of the shell. Just like you have one access point, you only cover here, and then you need another access point to cover here, and then you need another one to cover here, right? So what I mean is like access point here. These are the access point. Okay, they have a range coverage. So this is then you need another Shell station to cover this. This is what I mean by overlap. Right? So imagine you have one Shell station here, and then it only cover here. Then what happens if the car travel like here, then you see that signal block. That's why some of you who subscribe to maybe TPG, sometimes at certain MRT station you can't receive, right? Because not very well coverage. So they must ensure that they have a good number of cell tower, right? And what happens if sometimes they build redundancy? They might even have two Shell station, right? In case one fail. Right, if one fail, then here empty bubble, right? So at least this can take over. Okay, so they have overlapping cell coverage, so that is when people travel from this to here, right? That is, they have to automatically take over, right? People travel around. Okay, similarly for your campus, right? Your campus, computer lab in NUS. Right, so when you travel from here to here, I think students go from one lab to another lab, isn't it? Right, so sometimes they bring their lab from one lab to another lab in another level, right? So they move around. So you also have to ensure that they got this seamless coverage, right? The network cannot disconnect. Right, so you have got the wireless LAN, and you have the access point, right? Still only 87 students or 86 students. Next. Then you have this. These are the old one. Used to have all these interface card. If you haven't seen, this is where they burn in the MAC address. Okay, but now all compressed into a chipset. Okay, so then of course they have to abide by this IEEE standard. So you don't have to remember all these standards. So they have all these standards that you, unless you are the manufacturer, the producer of this Wi-Fi or wireless LAN cables, or the Wi-Fi access point or the satellite, then you need to abide to all this wireless communication protocol, right? Transmission speed. So this is the Wi-Fi that connect to the access point. Right? Access point, in case you still don't know what's the access point, is the one that you have at home, okay, that you connect up to, right? So the one that Singtel give you, the Singtel give you the wireless access point. Why we call it the access point is the connection between the wireless to the wired network, right? So usually your access point need to be connected to a wall mount, right? Through a RJ45, is it? Right? Cable, so that it can connect to your, you go and follow until they follow to a optical fiber optic, maybe the DSL modem, so that it can connect up to the rest. So you have a optical fiber cable usually connected to your home, right? So you have a DSL subscriber, digital subscriber line. So depending on who you subscribe to, so you need to subscribe this. So they are all comes with different bandwidth, different speed, different coverage, right? Different technology have different radar strength. Okay, they have different software, firmware that's burned inside there. So it really depends on the model of the router, whether you're getting the different type of modem, okay, or right. So there are different brands like Cisco, Linksys, D-Link, a lot of them, right? So this is for cell station. So sometimes they use this transmission. This is more popular for like army. Those who have gone to army, if you belong to the radio army one, okay, the signaling army, then you might be playing along with a lot of this satellite dish, right? So that you use this satellite dish is because you can control the coverage, right? So army uses this because they can direct the signal to here and direct the signal to here. So they don't want to let enemy know, right? So that's also one way. So we using this satellite dish, you can direct your signal, right? Not like your access point can go omnidirections, all over, go round, everything cover. So at least this you can at least minimize the risk of exposing your communication, right? Communications. So wide area network. So nowadays our Wi-Fi we uses the WPA2, right? We uses the WPA2 to basically use that to control who can access, right? So like someone you say, hey, sir, yes, I see your SSID. Well, you have to come to my house to get into the network, and then of course before you can get into the network, you have to enter the WAP key, WPA2 key. I'm sure you know what is it. This is the setup. Okay, and last time I used to teach J2ME, but now nobody use J2ME programming. So this is the wide area network. So these are just a quick comparison. So don't have to go and remember the technical details, right? So you can see that bit rates, right? So you can see these are all the megabits, not bytes, bits per second. So these are how far your home, also very easy, and it's very mobile. You can move around. Okay, so these are the various advantages. So you take a look at the advantages. Okay, and nowadays Wi-Fi is also quite fast and quite reliable. Disadvantages, of course, people are always still thinking about the health risk that can that could comes along with it. But so far so good, right? So so because there's a radio frequency that will go through your body, so you don't know whether it's high risk or not, especially those with a cell phone, usually on phone, right? So if those emitting radio frequency, is there a harm to your brain when it's too near? Or some students even sleep with the handphone, right, on. Okay, so when you're surfing the YouTube, listening to YouTube streaming, like my daughter always have it, and then fall asleep with the earphone just beside her face. Okay, so you do not know any inherent kind of issues, right? And of course, Wi-Fi wireless network is always got a problem with security, right? Because it's omnidirection, it travel, you can't control unless you use a satellite, right? Otherwise, it basically can the coverage can actually leak out of your office, and any eavesdropper, anybody can, if they have a powerful enough receiver, they might be able to try to tap into your wireless network. So that's the danger. So that's why you need to have a very strong Wi-Fi key, such as the WPA2. It used to have a WEP kind of a key, okay, to lock people out, okay, to gain access. Right now they have in fact, if you are still using WEP or WPA, right, you should move on to WPA2, right? And I think there's also a WPA3 coming out. I think so. So you need to have at least for your home user, you must set your own Wi-Fi key, right? You should not have a free access. If you have that, you'll find that people can sniff into your network. So this is where I talk about the high risk, right? So people, maybe it's not long enough. People have not seen enough because some of these technologies are still new. It's just up for like 10, 20 years, right? You still don't know what's the long-term biological damages that can do any harm to you. Just like all those vaccines that we're taking, we're also not sure what's going to have a long-term effect on human genes, right? You never know, right? Now that everyone has to go and inject with all the various mRNA Pfizer then what, Moderna, and the Sinovac. So you don't know what all this effect that will have impact. That's why they are restricting, especially those young children not taking it. Right. So this kind of wrap up for this chapter. So I'd like to move on to the next chapter on 85 students only. So never mind, we'll just continue. Okay, we'll run through the one on firewalls. I think the second chapter, which is the second last chapter. Let's try to finish up the second last chapter, so that the last lecture we just have a short lecture to do. And so if you need toilet break, just go ahead and do your own link. So we'll just spend another maybe half an hour to 45 minutes to complete this network security, right? So because of wireless and because of a lot of internet, we need to have encryptions in place. We need to have some form of network security in place, right? And a lot of us heard about antivirus software. So you should also put in your antivirus software so that you can fight against some of these computer virus, right? So computer virus, I'm sure you know what is it. I don't need to spend too much time talking about what's a virus, but there's a virus and there's also the worm. There's a lot of gray area. People just interuse some of these terms. But they are just basically destroying your computer stuff. You're either stealing your software, stealing your data, damaging your files, etc. So they usually malicious kind of attack, right? So the difference between the virus and a worm is the virus need an active host, right? They need you to do something to help it to propagate, to spread. Whereas a worm is a bit more independent. They do not depend on the human being to help to spread the virus, right? Just like COVID, I think COVID is a virus. If they need a human to spread the virus, right? They need human to spread. But a worm, okay, it's just like a living organism. They can just spread. They can move around themselves. They don't need human to click open an attachment or whatever, right? So they basically they can propagate by themselves. Okay, by transferring from computer to computer, they can move by themselves, right? They don't care whether the host is dead or not alive. They can still move around by themselves, right? But if you see viruses, if the host is dead, then the virus also cannot spread already. Then there's also another one, which is the Trojan horse. Trojan horse. Right? This is the one that hacker can put malicious attack piece of program and he's hidden inside like gaming software, etc. What happened? Right? They can hide inside and then they will release themselves. Maybe when you're asleep or maybe when you're not alert, then they will start to either copy out all your contact number and then send it out to the world, or they can delete, alter, whatever. So basically doing damages or anything, or try to look for your password, okay? And then try to hack into your own system. So the kind of attack is usually they rely on OS, okay, vulnerabilities. That's why you can see that OS constantly they need to patch up. You know, operating system, they contain millions and millions lines of codes. There's a lot of codes inside that. It's almost impossible to ensure that the code, the operating system like iOS, Android OS, the Mac OS, okay, Windows 10, Ubuntu, Linux, Red Hat OS, Linux system OS. They are all written. They are the middleman between the software, your application, with your hardware. They interface with the keyboard and with all the underlying hardware, as well as the screen that display. So they are very important software, but they contain lots of codes. It's impossible to have a bug-free. If this Microsoft operating system, right? If they were to wait until they are completely fine, then they no need to launch already, right? And now they have another new Windows. I think Windows 11 just released, right? Now most of us are using Windows 10. Right? In the past, we heard about Windows Vista, Windows NT. So you can see that over the years, the OS company like Microsoft, if they found some bugs, they will ask you to update. That's why regularly you need to update, right? Even your Android OS or iOS, sometimes you encounter need to upgrade, and they will automatically try to patch up. So when they are patching up all these patches, it's basically fixing some of the vulnerabilities, some of the bugs, because they found there's some loophole where the hackers are coming, or they found some backdoors. The hackers are already trying to leverage or try to cannibalize, right? So they will go through. So they try to fix it up. So they try to make use of so basically hacking is trying to exploit some of these vulnerabilities, right? Or even the vulnerabilities of your program, right? Such as your game software and Microsoft Words or whatever, or productivity software, right? So you have to be careful of what you are downloading, right? A lot of us are just simply impatient about downloading a lot of software, just like me also lah. I also don't care. I found a software, okay, that can do sticker, that can change the custom or change the edit the video, right? I'll just download. But do you know that every time you download, they will always warn you, say that this software will access to your phone book, will access to your camera, will access to your photo albums, etc. So seriously, they will access. Even some will access to your GPS. But most of us are just too impatient and can't be bothered. We just say, okay, agree, and then download. So unknowingly, you're letting this program access to your GPS. Now you go and see, every time you download software, they will prompt you that it will access all this, right? So the chances is, if they access to your GPS, wow, they know your location already. They can always beam it up to somebody else, right? If they see, if they have access to your photo, worse lah. Some of you take photo, selfie, or some even take selfie naked. Then your naked photo will go out. Then some people will steal your photo album. So you gotta make sure that your photo album is clean, okay, and don't have any pornography kind of things there. People might be able to access some of this and then send it out, right? And they might be able to access to your password, and also they might access, let's say, to your naked photo and then send it out to your friend. That's even worse, right? You never know. Some of the software actually have access to your phone book and access to your contact, your handphone number of your friend, and they will basically take all those unwanted photos and then send it to your friends. Who knows? That is possible. And worse, some even have, when you download some software, they even say, can I have access to your camera, your phone camera, your front camera, your back camera? Again, those will have a dangerous impact, because who knows, a lot of us also bring camera into your toilet, right? You go 大便, you go bathing, you also go bring your handphone. What happened? Maybe if the demon software or program running at the background, they were secretly on the camera without you knowing, your front camera, even your laptop as well. So that is this possibly that can happen. Yeah, now I tell you, it's meant to scare you guys, but it's real, right? So, but all of us just can't be bothered. Same for me. So that's why the best way is what? You see some of those are with, maybe after I say this, all of you go and buy it, right? Like what I have, you see I got the slit that can close my camera, okay? I don't know what, a camera cover, I think it's called camera cover. So the best way is get a camera cover lah, right? Some of you will say, never mind, my laptop got my front camera, when it's on, got LED light on one, no problem, I know where it's on. Okay, the hacker can also off your LED light, right? If they have control of your camera, they can also off the LED light, so you will not know whether the camera is filming you or not, right? Seriously. Okay, so this is where they can attack the OS. They can control, and then now worst thing is you given them, and when you download the software, you have just given, when you say yes, you have just given them the access. It's not that they get in, right? Because you've given them the access. But the problem is, if you don't give them the access, then you cannot run the software. You cannot run like what I have. I usually have a lot of WhatsApp stickers, right? And I try to customize and change it, right? But then you have, and also video editing tools, right? Where most of us download, or some of you download the games, especially, right? These are people that can do some of these things. It's not, it's doable. Okay, So so common type of attack is also from email attachment, but these are not, most of us are aware of this, but a lot of times it's basically the downloading of the software. So you need to verify. That's why we just yesterday I mentioned about a signal, the signature. That is where we need to find out who actually developed the software. So sometimes you download the file, you also must find the origin. Who are the developers, right? Who are the developers? Okay, who developed this and how many stars they get. So attack can come in many forms, right? Attack can come in denial of service attack, which means that they will bomb your whole computer. They will overwhelm your computer with so many messaging. Example, the most one is the pinging, right? They ping, ping, ping. Remember the exercise that we do on the ping? When you ping somebody, then I'll reply you 4 times. Right? That is resources draining. But if I keep pinging you, then you get you got no chance to do process other things, right? So this is one of the way. Basically, use a flooding kind of attack, right? To flood you with a lot of requests, right? Or deny you of your services, your proper services, such that your system will slow down. Okay, and that is some of the attack that can happen in some of the social media platform, right? So they can overwhelm the platform so that other people who want to use the system, they cannot use or being denied, right? So that's why it's called the distributed denial of service attack. Okay, DOS in short, distributed denial service attack. Why distributed? Because they might not be using from one computer, right? They can also use the other zombies, okay, other computers, other server to help them to overwhelm you, right? They don't have to use their own computer, right? So they can also use, like, for example, spamming of email is another case, like also denial of service attack, right? So they can send you. So if your email is being attacked, you can expect like thousands of emails suddenly inside your inbox, right? Can you imagine when you have thousands of emails inside your inbox? You're just simply overwhelmed. You don't know which one is real one, which one is your email, right? So that's the kind of attack that's possible. Okay, so they uses a lot of programs like the botnet, okay, that can take over the whole operations of your computer. Okay, and they can also use later on there's a diagram. Okay, so they can also use the smurfing attack. So there are many different type of attack. They can also use the pinging type of attack, just now I explained. So they ping you and then you got to force to reply, and then they keep ping, right? Just like they keep a lot of noise around you, and then you just simply cannot get your own work done, right? Ping storm, that's the ping storm method. Or they can use the smurfing attack. This is basically exploiting the IP broadcast addressing. Remember, we talk about if you set up a subnet, usually we reserve the last IP address for broadcasting. The broadcasting is meant to broadcast to all the stations, right? To all the workstations. So they basically, if they manage to find your broadcast IP address, then they can always ping, right? Instead of pinging every workstation, they ping the broadcast address. And then the broadcast address, the router itself will basically spam you guys, spam all of you, right? Instead of me having to spend, like, let's say if I create a subnet with a department of 100 workstation, I don't even ping 100. I just ping your broadcast, and that broadcast will ping the rest, right? So that's the smurfing kind of attack, exploiting. Right, another one, of course, they can use. They can basically try to attack a few. They get others to help to attack. Right, this is what they call the bouncing effect. Right, so you can see they basically find a few compromised web server that got vulnerability. They attack, and then they use that to another level to create another bouncing. Right, so they maybe bounce off from another 100 server which they are being attached to, and then they use that to bounce off to another few thousands or target website. Okay, maybe this is for example, right? I use 100 server. I get 100 server, 100 students, for example. all the 100 students, can you go and storm Mr. Liao? Okay, so I poor guy, and this is poor me. I got my email. Then you, all of you 100 students or 500 students, can you go and write an email all to Mr. Liao? Then you find that wow, all the email all flooded this. So this is like the server, you make use of the whole server and then bounce off, okay, to one single target. Okay, and then this target, the poor guy will be overwhelmed. So this is another kind of a smoothing attack, right? So spoofing is basically pretend that you are sending from someone else, right? Pretending that sometimes we receive, right? Sometimes we receive from let's say visa.com. Let's say, oh, Visa say that your credit card has been hacked. Can you give us your personal details? So you got to check, right? Sometimes Apple ID also they send out, but you got to read the address, the original of the address. Maybe the Apple is spelled wrongly, right? So you got to be careful, right? So so you need to be aware of who are the emails. So if there are some sensitive email, you better check that is an email that from either a renowned reputable company, right? And make sure the spelling is correct. Either the URL, the address, or the email is being spelled correctly, right? So that's one simple way of checking. Then of course, Trojan horse, just now I mentioned, is basically hidden malicious code that is hide inside a proper application. Not just like I mentioned, also it could be maybe recently I also want to take IC photo, right? So I need to clean the background. So I go and download an ID photo app, right, on the handphone, so that it can basically give me a white background, right? Sometimes you cannot find a very white background, maybe a little bit beige color also cannot, right? The passport will reject. So you need some of this app to help you. And then when you download this app, they will, hey, I will have access, okay, to your photo, right? So you have to say yes, right? If you don't say yes, you might not be able. So they must have access to you, not just your photo, but they say access to your photo album, which means everything inside with you, right? So they have access, and who knows, in the background, okay, like the Trojan horse, they could be stealing some of your photos, and they can identify your page, your face. You know, if you nowadays if you use Google Photos, but they are all very smart already. They can identify all the picture with your face. Okay, they can put it up. So don't think that programs, the software don't have artificial intelligence. Nowadays, a lot of software got artificial intelligence. Just go and check out your Google photo album, right? They can basically group, okay, and also discover all the photos, okay, with you alone, or even when people tag your face or upload your face in the social media, you can actually, because they have facial recognitions. Facial recognition is very, very matured right now, right? You have used it on your handphone, right? Even with bad lighting, you change your hairstyle, you change your spec, they also can recognize you, right? Even side view also can. You go and try with your handphone. I try it when I'm driving, when my car wasn't very bright, also can recognize. Your fingerprint, they don't have to remember the same. They basically remember your fingerprint in different orientation as well, right? So that is the thing, okay? And some of the AI, okay, that is happening is they can even use your many years ago, maybe your 12 years old photos. They can also recognize you, right, when you're a few years later, right? They can also recognize you when you're a kid, right? This is AI. It's the same thing. Why is it that some of you can still recognize your PSLE friend when you have not seen them for like 12 years, right? How come you can? Because there's certain features like the distance between your eyes, the nose structures, and also you can roughly guess. So the same for software. They are able to recognize using even childhood photo and be able to recognize your mature, or even some can even render that how you will look like when you're old, roughly, right? So this is the technologies. And worst thing, like my wife always say, hey, don't upload our family photo or her photo right, to the social media. I say, you don't upload your friend will upload, your kids will upload, right? And some of the technology, if it's a cloud-based, they don't even need a passport IC from you. They don't need a government, right, to issue them your photos, right? They can grab your photo, how you look like from the social media, right? They can grab it from Facebook, from Instagram, from all these places, and they can even recognize you. Why? Because there are some people will tag you, tag your face with them, right? And after a while, they also see in the photos, most of your photos are whose pictures, and they might even identify that you are the owner. Okay, so there's many things that you can do. So there's also the phishing, right? This is also one of the standard attack to get your login ID and password, right? So so they can come up with a fake website. Like this is a phishing website. Just like if you go to this, okay, DBS, right? How do you know this is a correct website, right? Somebody might come out, for some you might come out with that's why there are some hackers, they if they know certain well-known, they go and basically hijack the website address, right? Like dbs.com without the .sg, right? Or maybe I say DBA, right? Because S and A is just beside. If you look at the keyboard, A and S is just beside. So some people might type in wrongly, right? Like if I want to go to DBS, I can DBA suddenly type wrongly and .com.sg, right? I can steal that website and then I can mock up and look and feel, similar look and feel as this. And then what happens if you're not vigilant enough, you might just log in and then key your user ID and password, right? So that's where they will grab. The moment you key your user ID and password, they store it, right? And then they pop up, oh, sorry, now DBS under maintenance. Sometimes we receive that, right? Right, and we thought genuine, so try back again. Or sometimes they just prompt you, login password wrong, so key in again. Well, worse, you double confirm with them by logging in the second time, and sometimes you thought that you typed wrongly, right? Sometimes we just type in and then some give 3 times, so they gather your user ID and password. They prompt you that, oh, sorry, you keyed your password wrongly or user ID wrongly, and then they prompt you 3 times. After that, they say, sorry, the website is under maintenance, and then you didn't realize. And when you think that, they will say, try back in half an hour's time. And when during that half an hour, they could be stealing your information already, right? So they will capture your user ID 3 times, okay? If they ask you 3 times and you give them 3 times, so it's like double confirm plus chop chop. Wow, sweet. Okay, sure. That's why now MAS come the rules that you need to have a second factor authentication, right? Which is using your handphone or either something that you have, okay, which is your handphone or a token to issue a single another password, right? So this is what we call the phishing website. What I'm just describing is you come up with a similar look and feel. Hey, it's not too difficult to come up with the same look and feel. I can do a screenshot and then I just come up with a login screen, right? That one login very easy to do, right? If you study .NET, using the ASP.NET, all simply drag and drop one. There's a login plugin, you just drag and drop, and you can form. This is a website very easy to do, right? So people just log in and then print, and then they will just be giving user ID and password, right? So you guys can come up with a fake one like UOW or Moodle, then fake me into entering, then you can get access to all my exam paper, right? And also the quiz, right? So life will be much easier. So also if you can just log in, right? So but of course I usually try to use my own laptop. I wouldn't want to use my the public workstations, okay, like the lab instructor PC. So if some of you are very gung-ho, you can try on the lab PC. Go buy this, okay, how you can steal your your boss password. Don't say that I teach you all. So you can go and buy this key grabber, right? Or key, what we call the key logger. Yes, key logger. Okay. This you go Taobao, go Tmall. I think you can get. Just type in key logger or key grabber. What is this? What is this? This one can also steal password. You just have to go to the the instructor PC, the teacher's PC, right in the lab. Okay. Before he come, you come early. One of the good students, then the instructor come in. Oh, you very good students are first to come in. But who knows, you might be plugging this key grabber. Behind the workstation, who go and check behind the workstation? They got USB or plug in one of the so many multiple port, right? You just plug it in. And what does this do? This steal the password lah. How does it steal the password? So you all can go and search keylogger. Just Google search keylogger. So you see they have the USB. They have the USB. This is the hardware, right? You can go and see, check how they sell. What does this keylogger do? The keylogger basically will it comes with the Wi-Fi, right? Which means that it read all your keyboard log. Keyboard, whatever you type, it will basically transmit out. Okay, you read out all your key. It's called a keylogger because it read all the key that you type in, right? And then they transmit wirelessly to your handphone or to your laptop. So whatever I type, you get what I see. So you see what I key in, right? So usually for instructor or your boss who come in, first thing what they do, key in the window user ID and password. Sui already capture already. You don't have to wait very long, right? First few sure login user window ID. After that, log into Moodle. After that, log into their email. Like me is Yahoo. Right? I seldom use the UOW, so don't bother send to my UOW email. I never read that. I actually forward. Okay, sometimes I forward, or even my SIM. Right, I forward them to my Yahoo. So this is about forwarding. Right, you can actually forward some of the reach. So this keylogger is basically got that. Okay, so you can actually send. Also, first few thing you key in, right? You basically capture their user ID and password, and these are the website that don't have a second factor authentication. Then liao lor, right? You can gain access. You can if you get into the the UOW. Where we enter the marks. Wow, you can even enter your marks yourself, man. Right after enter, that's the best, right? So so you can this is like transmitting, but this is hardware, right? So which means you have to plug in and plug out. But you can also install software. This is where the Trojan horse or something comes in. Right? There are so many. You go just keylogger, go image. There's also one. Right? I used to let students play. Maybe I should do that also in my lab. There's actually a number of lab, but a bit lazy, right? So, but I have got the exercise actually, right, for students to basically try out this keylogger, right? So you can actually, it's actually just download the software, just download the software. You can try it. Next time you go back to campus, you want to steal your friend's password and keyboard, login ID. Before she come or he come, you just have to install the software. This one no need hardware, so this one just software. You can download the software so that it run behind as a daemon. So the same thing, you can go to the instructor, you can install the software, okay, in the instructor PC, and then you can set maybe whatever he key in, you save it in the log. So when he left, you can go in and then retrieve the log. Right, the log will contain what? All the keys that you punch in, right? All the keys, and it's very easy. Also very easy, even if you key in everything, I just have to search, right? Mr. Liao, right? Usually login ID is Mr. Liao, right? Or Liao or somebody's surname, right? Then the next few must be the password, So it's not difficult to sieve out the user ID and password, right? So you can do it in the hardware, which is the just USB, no need to install it, right? You just plug it behind, you basically lock down all the keyword, right? And of course, the software will be, you need to install it and then run it in the background. So go find out, go check it out. So there are many hacking software that's actually available. And you can go and see YouTube. Nowadays, YouTube very good, teach you all kinds of things, including how to hack. Right? So a lot of hackers, they learn through this. There are a lot of hackers, they might not need to be very techy or need to do a lot of program. Right? So one of the best way to steal password is actually by overlooking from somebody back, right? Just like how you steal ATM password, right? So all you need is just stand behind and can see somebody's PIN. Same thing, right? How do you steal a person password or user, even the network administrator or any database administrator? Just simply stand behind, put in the keylogger. You can watch them, so you don't have to worry about what all the different way of trying to find vulnerabilities, what port scanning, to scan the port and then see which port is available for you to attack. Quite technical, no? Quite unique. You need to be very knowledgeable in some of these things, right? And then you have to find out what kind of OS, okay, the server is running, because different OS have different vulnerabilities. Different firewalls have different vulnerabilities. So you could discover all this very tedious. Might as well just stand behind a person or just steal their user ID and password. Much easier, right? Okay, I have not heard about USB killer. Somebody mentioned also. So, but anyway, there's many devices, many software, right? So, so of course, provided you're very careful, right? And then you make sure that you check, okay? But not all the time you check, like whether there's there an extra USB dongle behind or whether the software got running or whatever, right? So there's always a loophole. Okay? One of these days you might be tired and you might not even check. That's where your vulnerabilities come in, where people might steal, right? So physical security is like locking the door, making sure that the lock pad, the pin, all in place, right? So controlling physical protection. So you need surveillance camera. You set up honeypot. I mentioned honeypot before, right? Yesterday, I think, right? So honeypot is like indirectly form a surveillance, right? They create a trap. It's like creating a trap, right? Honeypot. So I can also set up a honeypot, like a fake network to fool hackers, right? Into getting into, instead of stealing, right? Just like I have a file server, and that file server contain all my exam paper and answers, my all past year papers and questions, and also maybe my repository for question pool. I have a lot of question pool, okay, question bank, all the question bank with answer. Wow, all the juicy stuff. So you can, hackers might be interested in getting hold of that, right? So, but I can also create another folder and then fake it and then put in all the exam question, but all the fake answer, all the wrong answer, right? And then I basically try to, right? There's many ways you can set up, right? So instead of even file names, I can set it as the real exam. Then the other one, I put it as ABC, right? So people will not be bothered, right? So they will go into the exam folders and steal all the fake exam papers with the wrong answers, right? So that is kind of like honeypot. So you can, there are people who actually set up, okay, organization, they set up all these personal trap, right? These are traps so that they watch how all these activities, how the hacking technique is taking place. Then they can protect their real data centers, okay? And of course, you can put in intrusion detection system, right? This is like detecting. So you will alert, right? When they detect certain abnormality in the attack, like suddenly there's attack at night, then they will send out a SMS or alert you. So this is like like how in a house we have a burglar system. That is the intrusion detection, right? We have sensor, motion sensors, right? So you find that some of the even the labs, we have not just surveillance camera, right? We also got motion detection, where most students don't know, right? There's also a motion detection system, which means that during lab that is closing or weekend or Sunday, where they don't expect any classes going on, but then students go in, then they will trigger the alarm. Okay, so these are intrusion, either motion detection system, right? Or they can sense that you on the computer, okay, and the light is switched on, etc. So it could also be light sensors also, right? So these are the various surveillance mechanisms that is being made available. right? Control access. You can also control the access by limiting the time and date. Just like just now, I couldn't show you, right? Need to get my password. Right? You can go and try it. Go look under your own web router. Your routers itself can also set up a firewall. There's some filtering that is possible. You can filter based on URL. Like for example, if I know my kids has been going to certain website, games website, I want to stop him, I can enter the URL, right? That say restriction, okay, cannot go to this, then they will be filtered off, right? So your little routers that you have at home got quite a number of features where a lot of people never use, So the router itself can also stand out as a firewall, right? Firewall, you can set all the rules, time of day that can serve, time of the week that you can access, and who can access. You can also use MAC filtering, using the physical. So you only limit, even if the person, another hackers, they found your valid IP address, they can't get in. That doesn't mean you have a valid IP can get in. I still got another level of blocking using the MAC address, the physical address. If you still don't know what's a MAC address, you go back to your lab exercise to do it. So you can find your own MAC address, right? So you can you know who are the hardware, which are the gadgets that's going to be connected up to the internet. So you can restrict them. So even if you have a valid Wi-Fi password, even if you manage to crack the WPA, you can't get in because you don't have a right MAC address. So that is also quite secure. Okay, because WEP key can be hacked, right? I have also got lab on that, on how to hack into a WEP, right? I got lab 2-3 hours we can get the WEP. But nowadays WPA or WPA2 very difficult, take a long time and not easy to hack. Okay, so these are the restrictions, right? You can set your own control restriction by the day, month, time, and all this. Password control, intrusion, and lockout. So you got to just find out. So usually you use user ID and password. Okay, so we can configure, and some nowadays you can see that your password after 90 days you have to change, right? So you can even set password restriction, right? Especially if you go to SIM, I think, right? Or yeah, so you sometime after 3 months you got to change your password again. They will force you to change. This is also to ensure that when somebody steal your password, right? Like for example, if some student managed to steal my password for this semester, they might not be able to use the same password for the next semester because I also have to change, right? The school will say, hey, 30 days already, you got to change. So that also prevents students from stealing my first password. Using a keylogger, it might only allow you to steal password for this semester. Next semester, I have to change the passwords. Then you have to use the same keylogger to steal my password again, right? So these are some of the settings. You can set the different type of password. You can also use second factor. Second factors are usually, other than password, you need to have other what you are. This is what you are, which means that what you are is not what you have. What you have, okay. Basically, in security, there is 3 ways, okay, to verify you. Either they use the what you know, which is your user ID and your password, which you know, or your PIN. This is what you know. Then the other one is what you have, which is also quite common, which is either where they send a second factor, they send a password and they want you to key in another password, and the password has to come from a token, or the password is sent to your email or sent to your handphone. Okay, that is what you have. If you have got your handphone, you got your token, or you have your contactless card, okay, these are what you have. Then what you are is basically all your biometrics. Okay, so it's not about what you have, because you can steal my handphone, right? You can steal my token, you know the PIN number, but can you steal me? You need my fingerprint, you need my facial recognition, you need my retina scan, iris scan. right? The best, of course, is the retina scan. Scan the blood vessel behind your eyeball. That one very difficult to fake, right? And very difficult. You need to dig out the person's eyes, and also by the time you dig out the person's eyes, also not very good. For fingerprint, you can still chop off the fingers, right? If you want to steal the biometrics, right? And some facial, there are some not smart, but nowadays the facial recognition are very smart. You cannot use photos, right? You need a 3D face, right? In order to do the authentication, right? So these are what you are. Basically, is what you are, your face, your fingerprint, even your voice, right? You can also use voice as a second factor authentications, etc. So the basic question, of course, who you give, you have to give a group user, right? Lecturers, right? Staff, right? Student, right? All the different, and even if you give the group, right, you also have to say whether you can set whether only read only or write only or delete only. For example, right? Like for example, we could have give the student all can have access, but they only can read but cannot edit, right? And cannot copy, example. Right, so you can give those different rights. So access right over here, so you can go to, I think some of you will know, you just right click on the file and properties, you go to permission, and you can set the various rights, whether to create folder, create rights, you can set, deny or what. So these are the different permission settings that you can set, right? So auditing of this paper, okay, basically log, okay, so you can use an event logger to log down what are the events. So these are the event viewer, right? So you can see what are the event, what are the warning that happen. So people can see, right? If you log in like the system into 3 times still invalid, they will also detect, right? They will lock down. So any error warning messages is actually locked down by this event viewer, right? So I can do trace back. If there's something wrong, I can actually trace back and check. Right? Another form of security is basically using encryption decryptions, right? So encryption decryption, so it's a form of a cryptography. So basically scrambling the message from a plain text, right, to become a cipher text, right? So it's just like this. Now this is a plain text. So you encrypt, it becomes scrambled message, right? So you use different algorithm. There's many different type of algorithm. There's a DAS, triple DAS. There's also the AES. And those who are computer security, you know about this, right? About securities, right? So this is a ciphering, right? So you have a ABCD until Z, right? So you can replace with these keys, right? So this is like the last time in the war time, they used to use this, very popular. But the thing is, if somebody steal this key, we call this the key, right? Because this is the replacement. So which means that A become P, right? H become E, and U become N. So if I have a message like, how about lunch at noon, right? Then you change it, right? So which means what? H is actually E. So H is E, so I replace with E, right? And P, A is this, then P is this, right? So this is like the replacement key. Last time, I think I got one time also test students on this. I used the what? 3 left shift cipher kind of encryption algorithm, right? So student must know what does it mean, so they shift, right? So I also teach security before, so I know a little bit on this, all these triple dash, public key cryptographies and all these things, right? So we used to test students or even hacking into the system, right? So this is the public key cryptography. That's what I mentioned, right? So a lot of time we must make sure that it's secure SSL connections, right? Like just now we went to DBS website, right? Where's my website? Okay. Right, just now we went to DBS. So you have to check, this is HTTPS, right? This is basically on port 443, right? So you know it's a secure website. This is a secure website with a padlock. So you know it's a padlock, right? It's a secure website. So you can also check, just to check, this one correct, connection certified to, you can see some of the certified, who developed this website, who certified to issue DBS. So then you feel a bit safer, right? And yesterday we talked about clear the cookies, right? You remember the kill the cookies. The cookies are basically there to ensure that people remember some of the things that key in or browse to. And sometimes they use the cookies to block down your user ID and password, right? So you might not want, so sometimes you want to clear your cookies so that, okay, especially if you're using a public laptop or public workstation, like you go library, then you use the laptop, use the workstation, which I see a lot of people go to the library, use the common workstation, and then they log into their bank account, okay, or log into your Yahoo account. So the next person who use, they might be able to steal some of these cookies, you know, right? Or just like even your lab, when you go back to your lab, some people lazy to bring your own laptop. Okay, good, then you use the computer lab. Okay, what do you use in a computer lab? You log into your Word documents, you log into your Yahoo, your Google account, okay, using a public workstation, right? And sometimes you save the password, so people can basically look into some of these cookies and some of these, right? They can steal your password, right? So sometimes occasionally you want to clear the password. You can even look at the certificate, verified by, well, this is not just DBS issue, you know, also verified by even a renowned Entrust. Okay, you can see Entrust, NetTrust. These are the verifier. That's something to endorse. Just like a passport. How people know that you are Singaporean? They look at your passport, right? If you go London, if you go India, you present your passport, people will recognize your passport because they've seen it before, and only they only authorized Singapore immigration can issue you this passport, right? And they have different security features that they can identify. So they can identify, oh, this is verified by Singapore government. So Entrust is the certificate authorities. Sometimes they call it the CA, right? So you can view more information, right? You can see this is the owner. At least you feel better. Before I log in, I see all this and somehow what expiring soon, man. Okay, expiring in a few days time. So they need to renew. If it's expired, you also do have to be careful, right? So you're going to look at who are the website identifying and who verify. Okay, you cannot say DBS is good, right? So you need to make sure that there's another third party to verify. It's just like audit. You must audit, right? And you also must check the certificate is still valid or not, right? If it's expired, then you cannot use again, right? Because no longer valid, no longer. So so you can see, wow, got store my cookies, man. Today I went in 4 times. Actually, I tried it out. So you see, wow, they lock down. They know. See, this is the cookies. They keep track of the state information. They even know how many times I go in there. So they know, wow, this guy always go to DBS website. Every day should go in at least 1 or 2 times. This is habitual. They say they can do data connections, right? Okay, and here, here even say, did I save my password? And you can even view my password, right? So if I prompt that to save my password, you will be saved. So you'll be saved somewhere, right? So so these are some of the technicality. Then you can see that they are encrypted using this RSA, right? You can see with ASE and 256-bit key. Wow, very long key. 256 very long bit key. Not the longer the key, the more difficult to crack. That take a long time. You can even view the certificates. Wow, more information. So these are things you can even check. Who is this Entrust? If you don't know, go check it out. This Entrust from US, not like from Afghanistan or what. Okay, so you can see these are the certified, okay, and trusted issue. You can check out their website and validity or until 2030. Wow, don't know still alive or not. So, and you can even see public key using RSA, key size 2048. See, these are all information, right? So even the hash algorithm using fingerprint, hash using SHA, right? CA, this is a CA, right? They are the CA authorities. They are authorized to be the top. Okay, client certificate. You can check their key, all these things. Yeah. So you guys can go and check it out. Entrust CA, go and verify all these things certificate. So every party, every organization got the certificate, right? Just like how do I know you graduate from UOW, right? And not SIM. They look at the certificate and who signed on the certificate. Is it signed by the dean or what? Okay, so these are part of the public key cryptography, right? So I don't think we need to go through on this unless you're going to take up another module, right? So public key is basically use a public key cryptography. You need two keys. One is the public key and one is the private key, right? So if you use the public key to encrypt, you use the private key to decrypt. So you use a different key. If you use the public key to decrypt, use the private key to encrypt, then you use the public key to decrypt. So you got to use the different key. So basically you use a different key to encrypt and use the other reverse key to decrypt, right? So a bit cumbersome, right? So I don't want to go into the detail, right? So unless you take out another module on this cryptography, right? So generally you use two key, right? Two key. Public key referring to everybody have this key. Public, that's why it's public. The private key is the one that you don't give it to anyone. It depends. Only one person can hold it, right? Only one person use it. Okay, and of course, digital signature is something like you signing. Usually people use a private key to sign, and this is usually implemented using So public cryptography using this. They usually use digital signature, usually derived from public key. So use your private key to encode or use your, right? So like we say, this key is to encode. So you need to use the public key to decode, right? Which is the reverse of this. Okay, so the owners usually will host the private key, right? So that you sign. It's just like you sign on some documents, you use your own private pen to sign it, right? And you store it as even store it as a hash. So you can even go to another level of hashing, right? So you hash with either with a SHA algorithm and you hash it so that you can generate a hash, right? You might not even store the real digital signature. Right, moving on is the firewall. Just now we also talk about firewall, the routers. Hashing, go read up on the hashing. Just now I saw it. Basically, it's kind of a summarize, right? Usually hashing algorithm. Let's say I send a picture or a book, okay, with any length, I summarize. So it's just like, sometimes I ask you to read storybook. Last time you all read storybook, right? Read storybook. I ask you to summarize in 100 words. So everyone have to summarize in 100 words. Okay, so it's a kind of a summary to protect against people changing. It's also use it for integrity check, right? So earlier we talked about integrity check. Go read out on SHA, right? Hashing. There are many different hashing algorithms. It's used, okay, to verify, okay, whether got anyone try to tamper the informations, right? If they tamper the information, likely the summary, the hashing is different. Okay, just like your password, right? You DBS, right? You go to DBS, you enter your password. The password is stored, okay, it's not stored in clear in the database. It's very dangerous. Just like any companies, you never store somebody password or your password, your customer password in clear in the database. Why? Because if I'm the company database administrator, let's say Google, if you go to Google your Gmail, you enter your user ID and password. Imagine your password is stored in clear, okay, in the database. What will happen? There are people who have access, right? Like database, Google database administrator, right? They can go in and check SQL server, okay, Oracle server, have access. I can see your database in clear. That's very dangerous, right? So if you ever implement any registration, you have to make sure that the password is being hashed before it's saved into the database. So your database will never contain your real password, your clear password. Very dangerous. In security, you have to store your password in database in hash form so that people cannot reuse your password. Even same for fingerprint, right? Some of us use fingerprint to do authentication. to verify, right? If you store the actual fingerprint, what will happen? If I'm the database administrator, if I'm the computer administrator, IT administrator, or IT manager, there's so many people in the IT department, no? Right? There are so many technicals who need to support or maintain. They will go inside and steal your fingerprint picture law, and use the fingerprint picture and then clone and then use it to other purposes, right? And if they know your Google ID and password, hey, these are the technical people, they know what to do, right? So they will be able to leak out all these informations, right? But if you store in hash form, okay, which is after you got the password, you go on and hash it. Okay, hashing function, you go read up. It's a one-way function. Okay, it's a one-way function. Means you only hash one direction. After you hash it, you cannot reverse back. Right? You cannot reverse. Okay. So that is for those who want to take up more on security lah. So you can go read up on what is a hashing. Firewall. So firewall, you can have a few types of firewalls. You can do packet filtering. So you look at the packet and then filter them accordingly. You look at the content, just like you check. Okay, check the IP address, the port number, whether you allow them to pass. Right, you might want to filter or blacklist certain IP address. Right, so like for example, I think in some of the earlier labs, right, you saw some blacklist, right, blacklist. Where you scan using a website, they can actually find a blacklist IP address, right? So these are, if we identify there are some hacking website, they come from some hackers IP address, the people share, right? The telecom actually share some of these blacklisted website. So they will tell you that you block off this website, don't let them come in, or port number, don't let them come in, right? Usually you can also like, all those port number you never use, you deny, or in a firewall setting is for those that is not used, you lock them. Just like if your house got 10 windows, right? If you go out, you're not using, then you lock out all the windows, right? So it's the same. Those port number, those service number that you not use, you should deny all. So usually at the last line of firewalls of the rules, you should deny all if any of those that is not used. Proxy server is something like a doorman, security man. They can, the more advanced, they can actually go and check. Like for example, if you are working in MINDEF, so the MINDEF, the security guard, the guard officer will check. Every time you go in and out, make sure your phone don't have the camera enabled one. Either you take out the camera, then you can bring in, right? Or you cannot bring in thumb drive. So they will check your bag. Got thumb drive or not? Got picture, got sensitive document. They check through the document. Got anything that is stamped with a top secret one, you cannot bring out, right? So there are proxy server that check the content, check what messages that you send out, and then they will basically, but that will basically slow down the whole thing, right? So this is the parental control. This is, I managed to screenshot some of them. Right, so you can see if you go to your wireless router, your home wireless, go and try it. There's a firewall. So your routers are also got firewall capability, you know, and it's free, you know, right? So you can go there and then set some of these. So you can say what you want to block. These are the port number. This is what you learn, right? Port SMTP. If you don't want people to send email, then you block them. Block. So those never use one, you block, right? Email, news, forum, secure. You can see the secure HTTP is a 443 file server. And here, you see, all those, or you don't want anybody to serve the internet. Like for example, during the online test exam, right? Okay, if it's a computer lab, then we can block off all the HTTP, so student cannot serve the internet, right? So they have to, it's like a standalone, right? So we can in the lab, we can conduct a test, right? A practical programming test, right? But we restrict you from serving the internet, from sending email, so that some of you after you return all the exam answer script, and then you send it to somebody else, right? Email to someone, your pal, right? And then, or your girlfriend, right? Then your girlfriend just copy from there, right? So you can block off all this port number, all this you can deny off, right? So here is also, you can also filter URL, right? This is a URL, the address. So you can stop block off, right? So this is a site. So that go check it out. Okay, check it out. Some of the settings that you can do, right? You can also block by application layer, right? Which is the program layer, right? That goes beyond the IP address and TCP. Maybe you can block like cannot play games, certain programs cannot run, etc. Right? And you can see the different these are the statistics of the scanning. And this is a firewall. So firewall is something like this. You can block people from coming in. You can also block things and going out, just like just now I mentioned. You can, because you want to stop any office member who are working in R&D department. They want to bring, they want to basically steal some confidential blueprint, okay, or design or some architecture or somewhat. Right? So they cannot. They also want to prevent from people from here is the inside. Sorry. So you want to also prevent people from stealing information and also people hackers from coming in. So that's the firewall. You can block off inside, okay, and also outside. Okay, you can do restriction for both sides, right? So you can also deny certain access. And these are the other denial of service attack, right, through the wireless means. And all these are the different security. Authentication is just to verify whether you're allowed. You can use the SSID is the network address, the most easiest one. So you can enable MAC filtering. So you see, this is the MAC filtering, means you only filter by MAC address, physical address, which is more difficult to spoof. You can even enter what are the address, the MAC address that is authorized, right? So these are all available on your wireless router. Go check it out, right? And this is the WEP, which is now most people should not be using. So you don't use this. You should be setting WPA2, which is the Wi-Fi key. And these are the longer and more secure. Right? Longer key is more difficult to attack. All these security, like the standard, don't need to really remember them, right? And there are also other technical information that I don't think I'd like to go through. So these are a bit more complex. Okay, so you have the different key. Like I say, these are all the temporary key. They also do a lot of check. They also do MIT integrity check, right? So that you don't tamper some of the message header and also the data. Okay, so all these are standard IEEE. So if you are the manufacturer of Wi-Fi routers, all these things, you know, you have to understand all this. Okay, these are the encryptions together with the authentications. Okay, authentication kind of standard that you have to abide, that the software that you write have to follow. Just like you need hashing, right? All must have hashing, and what kind of a hashing algorithm that you use, right? There are a number of hashing algorithm, right? SHA is just one of them, right? So you can also use a Radius server. So this is like an authentication server that contain all your user ID and password, right? So there must be a server that contain all the user ID and password, right? But again, the password must be hash so that it's not stored in clear, right? So that they can verify that you are the right person to go in to use. So those are usually kept inside the Radius server, right? So or you can use a VPN tunneling. This is for secure channel, like yesterday I mentioned, right? So people basically do remote access nowadays. So you can have a VPN tunnel. You create a virtual private network, right? This is a VPN, virtual private network, so that you can connect from a public IP internet to remotely into some intranet, right? So whatever tunnel inside is nobody can see. That's why it's called a tunneling, right? So any hacker that try to sniff your information, try to eavesdrop, they cannot, because they can't see, they can't know. How come they don't know? Because your message are all scrambled, encrypted, right? So they have to hack into the encryption key. They have to use the right key to encrypt. There's no security that is confirmed safe, right? Doesn't mean you use a VPN app is very safe already, right? There might be people who can steal your password, steal the encryption key, or use a similar VPN key, right? Or whatever. So there are also any software, hardware after some time, they will have a loophole, right? Because of technology, because of faster speed. Just like previously, okay, Wi-Fi, I'm not too sure you guys still remember, a few years back, the Wi-Fi just use a WEP key will be good enough, right? But as over the years, that used to be WEP key good enough. They basically use some RCA kind of encryption algorithm. This is another kind of RCA, right? So they basically use this. It's good enough already, right? But then as technologies go, that hackers get more sophisticated. Your safest lock will still be cracked. Will one day be cracked because the processor are faster, the server are faster. They are able to find some loophole. So that's why it keep evolving. WPA, WPA2, right? These are the different longer key set, different algorithm, different ways of encrypting the key, managing the key, right? Some of them use temporary key to make it even more randomized. They embed with some other random numbers on top of your key. Every session also got different key, right? So that is how complex is it, right? That's why this temporary key comes in. They also have temporary key, which means that every session or after certain time, just like the DHCP, right? DHCP, after certain time, like 1 hour, 2 hours, your key might change. Or the next time you log in, the next session you log in, the key might change, the IP address might change, right? So this is how to make it even more difficult. Just like your password, they also force you to change after 30 days or 40 days or 90 days, right? They keep changing because why? They know one day somebody, another computer even more powerful, they might find a way to hack into the system, right? So that's why all system, okay, is not completely foolproof, right? That's why they use a combination, right, on top of a VPN. Then they also have second factor authentication, right? So even you hack in, you find the key. If you can eavesdrop, also no point. You still have to find the one single sign-on password, etc. Okay, so VPN basically they try to use a stronger encryption, but you must also understand the stronger the encryption, it will take longer time, right? With all this encryption, every end receiver sending, they will have to have time to encrypt and have time to decrypt, right? So it will slow down, but then that is being taken care by faster processor, faster computer, right? Like last time we talked about 32 bits computer. Nowadays, most of the laptop are 64-bit addressing, 64-bit. So it means one time 64 bits of information sent across. It's just like a lane. Last time used to be what, 32 lane or like a 2 lane. Now become 4 lane. Of course, double the speed. So the same thing goes for what? 16-bit computer changed to 32 bits, and now it's 64 bits, which means that the data transmission is much faster at every instant and processing is much faster, right? So that's why there's no foolproof, right? What we need is a multi-layers of security, right? So you need to have additional strategies, right, to do it. Like for example, your Wi-Fi, you must contain it, put in the center of the office, and don't put in the end. So you try to reduce and other places. Of course, VPN will reduce the data rate. Like I say, just I mentioned, you need to do encryption, decryption, do a lot of kind of thing, right? Rather I send you clear text, just like if I send you an email, clear email, you read it out immediately, isn't it? Right? But if I scramble my letter and then tell you, hey, you need to decrypt it, of course, it take longer. But nowadays, got faster processor. So just like somebody can read faster, now can read. So it also compromise in that sense of what? That could be part of the reason why it become laggy also, right? So if you have a faster, let's say if your computer is not fast enough, they'll be slower. Of course, compared to another computers that have a dual processor or core dual kind of a processor, right? Which means instead of one CPU, they have 2 CPU, and some server got 8 CPU. So you see, got 8 CPU, of course, faster, 8 controller. Right, so so you have to use other strategies. So one kind of protection mechanism might not be enough. So you need to have more security features to pack it. Right, so so you might have multiple firewalls. Okay, so I think that's about all I like to share with you. So before I end, 91 students. Okay, so just remember the next lecture. Okay, next week I think it's just lab. Okay, in the next lecture we will have the last. I will conduct the last lecture on ethic, right? And that will wrap out the whole module. And after that, I will have the quiz, right? The quiz very fast, 15 minutes. Okay, quiz 2 and 20 MCQ, right? So these are the chapter to be tested. So just get ready for, it will be the similar style. I think this time no true and false. I think all 20 MCQ. I think I haven't seen the question, forgot already, right? So we will be shorter time. So make sure that you at least read it and prepare it. Like I say, it's not meant for you to go and search for answers. Okay,